Something significant is happening right now across the United Kingdom, and if you or someone you love receives a state pension, this is one update you simply cannot afford to miss. Thousands of pensioners across the country have reported disruptions to their pension payments, and the reasons behind these stops are more widespread than the government initially let on. This isn't a glitch, and it isn't affecting just a handful of people. We're talking about a pattern that has quietly impacted retirees who have done everything right, paid their national insurance contributions, reached pension age, and relied on these payments as their primary source of income. Yet, for reasons that are only now coming to light, their money has stopped arriving. Now, you might be wondering whether this affects you, your spouse, or an elderly parent. The honest answer is, if you're receiving the new state pension, the basic state pension, or certain pension credits, you need to understand exactly what's happening and what steps can be taken to protect your payments going forward. In this video, we're going to walk through the real reasons behind these payment stops, who is most at risk, what the Department for Work and Pensions has said, and most importantly, what you should do right now if your payment has been affected or delayed. Stay with us until the end, because this information could make a genuine difference. And if you find this helpful, please give this video a like. It truly helps more pensioners find the answers they need. So let's start from the beginning, because to truly understand what's happening right now, we need to look at how the UK state pension system works, and why, even in a system as established as this one, payment disruptions are not only possible, they're becoming increasingly common. The UK state pension is administered by the Department for Work and Pensions, commonly known as the DWP. When you reach state pension age, which is currently 66 for both men and women, you become eligible to claim your state pension based on your national insurance record. The amount you receive depends on how many qualifying years of national insurance contributions you've accumulated over your working life. To receive the full new state pension, you generally need 35 qualifying years. To receive any state pension at all, you typically need a minimum of 10 qualifying years. Now this sounds straightforward, and for the vast majority of pensioners, it has been. Payments are made every 4 weeks directly into your bank account, and most people receive them without issue for years on end. But here's where things have begun to shift, and why May 2026 has become something of a turning point for thousands of people across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Over the past several weeks, the DWP has been conducting what is formally described as a data integrity review. This is essentially a large-scale cross-checking exercise in which the department verifies that the personal and financial information they hold on record for each pension claimant is accurate, current, and properly aligned with records held by HMRC, His Majesty's Revenue and Customs. What this review has revealed in a significant number of cases is that the information on file does not match what HMRC holds. And when that mismatch is detected, the DWP system is designed to flag the account and, in some cases, suspend payment until the discrepancy is resolved. This is the core reason behind the payment stops that so many pensioners are now experiencing. It's not a software failure. It's not a banking error. It is a deliberate administrative process, one that the DWP says is intended to protect pensioners from fraud and to ensure that public funds are being directed to the right people in the right amounts. The intention on paper is entirely reasonable. The execution, however, has caused very real distress for thousands of people who depend on that fortnightly or 4-weekly payment as the foundation of their household income. Let's talk about who is most affected, because this is not a blanket issue that touches every single pensioner in the UK. The disruptions appear to be concentrated among specific groups, and understanding those groups will help you assess whether you or someone close to you might be caught up in this process. The first group that has been significantly affected is pensioners who have recently changed their personal details with the DWP. This includes people who have moved to a new address, changed their bank account, updated their name following a marriage or civil partnership, or notified the department of a change in their living arrangements. In each of these cases, the DWP system needs to verify that the updated information is correct before it continues processing payments. In theory, this should be a quick process. In practice, the backlog of cases currently being reviewed means that some pensioners are waiting weeks before their payment resumes. The second group includes pensioners who have recently reached state pension age and are in the early stages of receiving their payments. New claims, particularly those processed in the last 3 to 6 months, are reportedly being subjected to more rigorous initial checks as part of the same data integrity review. This means that some people who were expecting their first few payments have found that those payments have not arrived as anticipated. The DWP has acknowledged in guidance to its staff that new claim processing times have extended beyond their standard targets, though no formal public announcement has been made specifically addressing this delay. The third group, and this is perhaps the most concerning, is pensioners who have been receiving their state pension without issue for several years, but whose records have been flagged during the automated cross-referencing process between the DWP and HMRC. In some of these cases, the discrepancy is something as simple as a middle name appearing on one record but not another, or a date of birth entered in a slightly different format across 2 different government databases. These are not fraudulent situations. They are administrative inconsistencies that have existed quietly for years and are only now surfacing because of the scale and depth of the current review. Now, it's important to say clearly that the DWP is legally required to notify individuals when their pension payment is being reviewed or withheld. The department should be sending a letter to your registered address explaining that a review is underway and providing guidance on what information you may need to supply. If you have received such a letter, please do not ignore it. The letter will typically contain a reference number and contact details for the pension service, which is the specific arm of the DWP that handles state pension queries. Responding promptly to any communication from the DWP is the single most effective step you can take to ensure your payments are restored as quickly as possible. If you have not received a letter but your payment has not arrived on the expected date, the guidance from the DWP is clear. You should wait for 5 working days after your expected payment date before contacting the pension service. This is because payments can occasionally take slightly longer to clear through the banking system, particularly around public holidays or when payment dates fall on a weekend. However, if 5 working days have passed and your money has still not arrived, you are entitled to contact the pension service directly. The phone number for the pension service in England, Wales, and Scotland is 0800 731 0469. And it is free to call from both landlines and mobile phones. For those in Northern Ireland, the equivalent service operates under the Social Security Agency, and the contact details can be found on the NI-Direct government website. When you call, it is advisable to have certain information to hand. This includes your national insurance number, your date of birth, and the bank account details into which your pension is paid. If your payment has been stopped as part of the data review process, the advisor you speak with should be able to tell you why your account has been flagged and what information is needed to resolve the matter. In many cases, the resolution can be initiated during the phone call itself, particularly if the discrepancy is something straightforward like an address mismatch or a name spelling difference. For those who prefer not to use the telephone, the DWP also accepts written correspondence. You can write to the pension service at the address provided in any correspondence you've received from them, or alternatively, you can find the appropriate address on the Gov UK website by searching for Contact the Pension Service. Written queries do tend to take longer to resolve, so if your situation is urgent and you are struggling financially as a result of the payment stop, a phone call is strongly recommended. It is also worth knowing that if you are experiencing genuine financial hardship as a direct result of your pension payment being withheld, you may be entitled to request an emergency advance from the DWP. This is not a widely publicized option, but it does exist. An advance is essentially an early release of funds that are already owed to you, and it is repaid through small deductions from your subsequent pension payments once they resume. The availability of this option depends on your individual circumstances, and not everyone will qualify, but it is absolutely worth asking about if you are struggling to cover essential costs such as food, heating, or rent while you wait for your payment to be restored. Now let's turn to the broader context of what this situation tells us about the state pension system and where things may be heading over the coming months. The DWP's data integrity review is not expected to conclude quickly. Government insiders and independent analysts who track welfare policy have indicated that the cross-referencing exercise between DWP and HMRC records is a substantial undertaking, and that the full reconciliation of records across both departments could take several more months to complete. This means that the risk of payment disruptions is likely to remain elevated for some time, and pensioners should be aware that even if their payments are currently arriving without issue, that could change if their records are flagged during a later stage of the review. There are also broader questions being raised within pension advocacy circles about the lack of public communication surrounding this process. Organizations that support pensioners' rights, including Age UK and Independent Age, have noted that many of the pensioners who have contacted them in recent weeks were entirely unaware that any kind of review was underway. They had received no advance warning, no explanation with their first missed payment, and in some cases, no letter at all. While the DWP has procedures in place for notifying affected individuals, the volume of cases being reviewed appears to have stretched the department's administrative capacity to the point where some notifications have been delayed, or in isolated cases, not sent at all. If you are a carer, a family member, or a friend of someone who receives the state pension, this is something you should be actively aware of. Older pensioners in particular may not immediately connect a missed payment to an administrative review process. They may assume it is a banking problem, or they may feel anxious about contacting a government department. If you can help someone in your life navigate this process, whether that means making a phone call on their behalf with their permission, helping them gather the relevant documents, or simply sitting with them while they contact the pension service, that support can make an enormous difference. It is also worth addressing a common misunderstanding that has circulated online and in some community groups. Some people have suggested that the payment stops are connected to a broader government effort to reduce the pension bill or to disqualify certain groups from receiving the state pension altogether. This is not accurate. The DWP has been clear that the data integrity review is an administrative exercise, not a policy change, and that pensioners whose records are verified successfully will have their full payments reinstated, including any amounts that were withheld during the review period. In other words, if your payment is stopped and you provide the information the DWP needs to verify your record, you will not lose those payments permanently. They will be paid to you once the review of your account is complete. That said, the process does require your active participation. The DWP cannot resolve a discrepancy in your records without your input. If you have received a request for information and have not yet responded, or if you have been meaning to contact the pension service and have not yet done so, please do make that a priority. The sooner you engage with the process, the sooner your payments can be restored. There is one more area we want to cover before bringing this section to a close, and that is the question of pension credit. Pension credit is a means-tested benefit administered by the DWP that provides additional financial support to pensioners on lower incomes. It has two components: guarantee credit, which tops up your weekly income to a minimum threshold, and savings credit, which is available to people who reached state pension age before April 2016 and who have saved some money towards their retirement. Pension credit claims are also subject to periodic review, and some recipients have found that their pension credit payments have been affected alongside their state pension payments during the current data review. If you receive both state pension and pension credit, and both have been disrupted, it is essential that you contact the pension service and make clear that both benefits are affected, so that both can be addressed within the same case review. For those who are not currently claiming pension credit but who may be eligible, this is also worth exploring. The DWP estimates that approximately around 1 in 3 eligible pensioners in the UK is not currently claiming pension credit, leaving a significant amount of financial support unclaimed each year. The income threshold for guarantee credit currently stands at around $218.15 per week for single pensioners and $332.95 per week for couples, though these figures are subject to change, and you should always verify the current rates on gov.uk. If your weekly income from your state pension and any other sources falls below these thresholds, you may well be eligible for additional support that you are not yet receiving. The takeaway from everything we've covered today is this: the payment disruptions affecting thousands of pensioners across the UK in May 2026 are real, they are significant, and they are primarily driven by the DWP's large-scale data integrity review process. They are not permanent, and they are not the result of any change to your entitlement. But they do require your attention, and in most cases, your active engagement with the pension service to resolve. The most important things you can do right now are to check whether your payments are arriving as expected, to read carefully any correspondence you receive from the DWP, and to contact the pension service promptly if your payment has been delayed or stopped. Keep your national insurance number and bank details close to hand when you call, and do not hesitate to ask about hardship advance options if you are struggling financially in the short term. This situation is evolving, and the DWP is expected to provide further guidance to Parliament and to the public as the review progresses. We will be covering every significant update to this story as it develops, and we will break down every change in plain, straightforward language so that you always know exactly where you stand and what steps you may need to take. If you want to stay fully informed as this situation continues to unfold, and given what we've discussed today, we strongly recommend that you do, then please subscribe to this channel and make sure notifications are turned on. Every time a confirmed update comes through on UK pension payments, pension credit, or any related DWP announcement, you will be the first to know. This channel exists to keep pensioners informed, prepared, and protected. And we are committed to bringing you only accurate, verified information you can genuinely rely on.